Part 2. The Imperial Germans Breakaway Group. Who is Blumkin? Returning from the Tibetan expedition, he gave the German side information about the artifacts of ancient civilizations he had seen. In fact, judging from the case documents, Blumkin prepared two reports, for the NKVD and for the Germans. During interrogation, he claimed that he had received $2.4 million from the NKVD Special Office for organizing a second expedition to Tibet, apparently with the aim of obtaining specific materials and artifacts. An internal audit did not confirm the fact that the amount indicated by Blumkin was transferred from the NKVD funds. The testimony of Polajayeva, sent to Blumkin as a spy, also played a role. Here's an excerpt from Blumkin interrogation protocol. As I told my interrogator, on a business trip to Tibet in 1925 on the order of the head of the Tibetan state, the 13th Dalai Lama, Thubten Gyatso, I was taken to the underground halls and shown some so-called artifacts, the weapons of the gods that have been preserved on Earth since 15,000 years BC. These weapons are stored in separate rooms. I wrote about this in detail in my reports. One report is handwritten, the second is typed on a typewriter, about 20-25 pages each. I don't know where they are now. The characteristics of the weapon are approximately as follows. 1. Giant tongs, wajaru. With their help, precious metals are melted. If you melt gold at the temperature of the surface of the sun, 6,000 degrees C, then the gold flares up for 70 seconds and turns into powder. This powder was used in the construction of mobile, huge stone platforms. If this powder was poured onto the platform, then its weight was lost to a minimum. The powder was also used in medicine, in the treatment of incurable diseases, and for the chosen ones. Mainly the leaders used it as food to prolong their lives. 2. Bell, the so-called shudzi, with the help of which you can blind a large army or an entire army for a while. Its mode of action is to transform electromagnetic waves at a certain frequency, which is not perceived by the human ear, but shines directly on the brain. It's a very strange weapon. With its help, the Indian prophet Arjuna won big battles, causing his enemies to panic. He, Stilcha, offered to lead a new expedition to Tibet and Antarctica for scientific purposes. I agreed, but I had no intention of fleeing, as I had reported these contacts and intentions to my superiors. That was my job. I also informed Stilha about the objects that are located in all parts of the world in the mountains. With the help of these objects, it is possible to destroy all the cities and industrial centers of all countries on Earth at one moment, regardless of the state and social system. As far as I understood from the explanations in the headquarters, and as I pointed out in my articles, in all parts of the world, there are spheres dug into the mountains made of especially strong metal, which can neither be sawn nor blown up. Within these spheres, there are certain mechanisms which, when turned on, produce a cloud similar to the sun. This cloud escapes into the atmosphere. It is controllable, i.e., it can move along a certain trajectory. In the right place, it explodes. It happened in 1904 in Tunguska, where such a cloud of the sun exploded, which had flown out of an underground sphere in Yakutia a few hours earlier. I don't know who controls the weapon and how. I haven't seen how these weapons work. I saw the units themselves in the underground halls, and a member of the Council of Tibet gave me explanations about the technical characteristics that I had passed on to the Germans, or rather to the representative of the German military intelligence, Herr von Stilche. I met Stilke in Europe on a business trip abroad. In addition to the technical characteristics of these two units, I also gave Stilha information about another weapon of the gods. Let's pay attention to Blumkin's phrase. The technical characteristics that I passed on to the Germans. Author. These weapons remain from about 8 and 10,000 years BC. They were discovered in underground cities under the ice of Antarctica in the area of Queen Maud Land. As far as I have learned, a key and a rite of passage are needed to get there, as this place is guarded by guards. These devices can move both underwater and through the air, and they do so at great speed. They move on special round-shaped aircraft that do not resemble airplanes, and airplanes known to us. Initially, Blumkin performed under the legend of a Mongolian Lama, but upon his arrival in Lhasa, he was exposed. He was saved from arrest and deportation by a mandate signed by Comrade Dzerzhinsky, with an appeal to the Dalai Lama, whom he had been waiting to meet for 3 months. As a result, the meeting did take place. In January 1926, at the palace in Lhasa, he was received by the Dalai Lama XIII. Blumkin describes that after he had gone through a kind of initiation procedure, promising the Dalai Lama to organize large deliveries of weapons and military equipment from the USSR on credit. as well as to help provide a gold loan to the government of Tibet. On the personal instructions of the Dalai Lama, 13 monks accompanied him to the dungeon, where there is an intricate system of labyrinths and opening secret doors. In order to do this, each of the monks took the appropriate place, and in turn, as a result of the roll call in a certain sequence, began to pull down from the vault of the ceiling rings with chains, with the help of which large mechanisms hidden inside the mountain open this or that door. There are a total of 13 doors in the secret underground hall. Blumkin was shown 2 halls underground. The monks keep the secrets of all the past civilizations that have ever existed on Earth. According to Blumkin, there were 5 of them, along with the civilization that exists now. According to the secret teachings of Waju, the inevitable cause of the demise of civilization on Earth is the rotation of another planet around the Sun, 3 times larger than the Earth, with a large internal supply of heat and water, in an elliptical orbit, with a rotation cycle of 3,600 years. This planet rotates clockwise, unlike the Earth and other planets, so when it enters the plane of rotation of the planets of the solar system, as a result of a powerful electromagnetic vortex flow, gigantic natural disasters occur on Earth every 3,600 years, as a result of which the death of humanity and animals has repeatedly occurred. At the same time, every 4th cycle of the entry of this planet into the solar system threatens with an inevitable global flood on Earth and the death of civilization, due to the characteristic dynamics of the rotation of the planets, which naturally align their orbits in a certain sequence. So, in this case, the Earth will face the alien planet, not from the mainland, but from the Pacific Ocean. Water on the Earth on the opposite side of the mainland will be pushed onto the continents due to the approach to the alien planet that passes through the asteroid belt due to its gigantic size and rotation. The height of the wave is up to 7 kilometers, with a speed of up to 1,000 kilometers/h. But I want to put the question in a slightly different way. What does the part of why Blumkin's answer about technologies hidden under the ice of Antarctica and underground cities left over from previous civilizations mean? It turns out that these cities are alive. Someone is preserving them and keeping the technology alive. Later, we will see that it is unlikely that the Germans were able to master the production and use of the same flying saucers in the underground cradle of mankind so quickly. Questions, riddles, mysteries, and fiction, which, by the way, is also possible. It is even more surprising, and this will be shown below, that the most modern, unprecedented means of warfare, ultra-modern submarines, were used not on the Soviet-German front, where the outcome of the war was decided, but for the development of the subglacial space of Antarctica and the protection of the passage to Agartha. Running a little ahead, I will pose one more riddle. A detachment of Soviet submarines, 1945, and then an American naval squadron, 1947, while trying to penetrate the same Agartha, were subjected to a powerful attack by flying saucers. As you know, the Germans were really engaged in their creation and even tried to use them in the Battle of Kursk as a means of observing the battlefield. But in general, experts believe that the project was not successful. But even if the Nazis managed to create several successful models of how to deliver them to the intraterrestrial cavity, submarines are clearly not suitable for this. Then, did they collect them in Agartha? Very doubtful. Or do the remnants of ancient civilizations continue to live under the ice of Antarctica? After all, Blumkin spoke precisely about the presence of such hyper-technologies in cities left over from previous civilizations. Moreover, speaking of attacking flying saucers, it should be borne in mind that they not only flew through the air, but also operated underwater, surfaced, attacked from the air, and again went underwater. The Germans only managed to raise such a device into the air without weapons in military operations, either on land or at sea. Their use was not noted either by our troops or by the Allies. In January 1939, the NKVD organized a scientific expedition to Tibet, which was curtailed in April-May 1939 because of the war between Tibet and China. From the materials of the expedition, it follows that the Tibetan monks have knowledge about weapons and flying machines inherited from ancient civilizations that existed on Earth about 1 million years ago. The Soviet expedition obtained information about how, in ancient times, gold was used in the construction of pyramids and palaces, which was turned into a white powder with the help of Vajaru tongues at a temperature equal to the temperature of the surface of the sun. Then, this powder was applied to granite slabs, and its superconducting properties were activated by the sound of harp strings. Huge granite blocks were thus moved through the air, and rocks were cut like butter. Similar experiments with gold were carried out in a special laboratory of the OGPU NKVD of the USSR in the period from 1933 to 1935 under the leadership of Comrade Saveliev. As a result of the experiments, a catalyst was extracted from gold, with the help of which the molten metals were influenced, as a result of which a kind of transmutation took place. When such a catalyst was added to lead or copper, both substances were converted into metals similar in characteristics to gold. The addition of powder obtained from gold at high temperatures to food prolonged the life of the Anunnaki leaders by 100 years. There are also instructions in German maps that are very difficult for a normal person to understand. Movement on the surface of the mainsail, with a list to the right by 8 degrees, a distance of 286 nautical miles. Where on the planet is there a grotto 286 nautical miles long? But that's not all. After covering 286 nautical miles on the surface, it follows a difficult maneuver, immersion, trim to the bow, angle of inclination 13 degrees, to a depth of 240 meters, distance 60 nautical miles. Then another 70 miles, plus 43, plus another 70. Then the ascent to the surface of Agartha, SIC, and full speed, driving straight until the dawn is visible, changing the magnetic poles. Do not pay attention to the excitement of compass needles and instruments. At the bottom of the card, there's a postscript. Attention. When passing the first section of attention, do not pay attention to extraneous sounds and signals, croaking. And then again, when passing the path, both air and underwater objects may appear on the surface inside the grotto. It is forbidden to shell these objects. The entrance to Agartha is marked with a red line on the map. Let's think about this strange information once again. Who and by what means laid these routes to the cradle of mankind? Who calculated these depths, rolls, trims? From ancient sources, myths, and legends, we know about flying machines. We have heard about flying saucers, about the use of weapons similar to nuclear, laser, and beam weapons in ancient times. Note the instructions. Do not pay attention to extraneous sounds and signals, croaking. Those so-called Quakers are USOs investigated thoroughly by the Russian Navy. Russian documentary about USOs.
Запад ищет советские подводные лодки повсюду, но военные специалисты растеряны. Обнаруженные субмарины иногда демонстрируют просто невероятные характеристики. Лето 1967 года. Атлантика. Буквально в притирку с аргентинским судном «Навьера», бесшумно и не оставляя следа на воде, в течение четверти часа шла светящаяся сигара длиной более 30 метров. Не видно было ни перископа, ни поручней, ни башни, ни надстроек. Вообще никаких выступающих частей. От сигары исходил мощный голубовато-белый свет. Затем объект неожиданно нырнул, прошел под судном и быстро исчез в глубине, излучая под водой яркое сияние. Военно-морская разведка США докладывает, казалось бы, о немыслимых вещах. Например, о том, что неизвестные объекты обладают качествами не только подлодок, но и самолетов. Они вылетают из-под воды буквально под носом у противолодочных крейсеров и на сверхзвуковой скорости уносятся в небо. Фотографии и киносъемки военных моряков засекречены, но подобными снимками то и дело делятся гражданские моряки. Вот лишь один из них. Он сделан у берегов Бразилии летом 1962 года с борта судна «Кайоба Сихора». Экипаж с изумлением наблюдал за странным летающим объектом, который погрузился в воду рядом с судном. Другой объект в это же время вылетел из воды и исчез в ночном небе. Что это? Неужели русские в научно-технической гонке настолько вырвались вперед? Американская разведка докладывает. Ходят слухи, что Советы на Каспии испытывают какой-то особо секретный самолет-крейсер, способный перемещаться как под водой, так и по воздуху. Пентагон всерьез обсуждает возможность создания такого супероружия.
Сотрудники Института физики Земли имени Шмидта рассказали мне о наблюдениях, которые они провели в Каспийском море, в южной части. Это очень глубоководная часть вот этого водного бассейна. О том, что из-под воды вылетала летающая тарелка, и затем методом падающего листа уходила в воду. Вот когда она погружалась, были световые вспышки, которые, кстати, просматривались и сквозь толщу воды, в глубине.
С годами проблема неизвестных подводных объектов все больше беспокоит Запад. Кое-кто даже начал усматривать связь между ними и исчезновением боевых субмарин. Так, всего за 4 месяца 1968 года при загадочных обстоятельствах погиб.
Document of missing U-boats. Reports that give an approximate idea about the number of departures, such as these, are rare. However, we have found one report from 1944, which gives us a good picture. It says, Dar, the boats listed below, have not returned from their last trip. They are considered missing. And further, the following boats have been lost since they were put into service. One calls lost, if one has no exact details about the loss except for date and time. The term missing is used when even this information is not available. The so-called U-boat table lists in 31 columns divided by vertical lines, date of commissioning as well as time point, type, and fate of boat traffic. A cross stands for lost without survivors. A dash stands for missing without any trace. An exclamation mark stands for temporarily out of service due to damage. A question mark stands for fate unknown. They are marked as missing, not sunk by enemies, missing. Those are the submarines that went for the secret expedition to Antarctica. This is a quote from www.entityart.co.uk. The article name is Ufology Explained. When did UFO sightings start occurring? During and just after WW2. What do they look like? Flying metallic saucers. Which country was developing metallic saucer-type craft during WW2? Germany. Where did the first sightings of these craft occur? In the countries of Central Europe near Germany during WW2, as well as in Germany itself. Where were there many sightings of the silver disk UFOs after WW2? South America. Where were the German U-boats heading that were intercepted just after WW2? South America. What continent is very close to South America? Antarctica. After the war supposedly finished, where did Admiral Byrd go with his convoy of warships? Operation High Jump? Antarctica. What happened to Byrd's so-called expedition? They came back terrified as they were attacked by very advanced craft and weapons. A. The UFOs are, by this time, driven by electromagnetism. Consequently, all secrets surrounding electric power have been discovered. Since all modern communications and guidance systems are based on electronics, it is an easy task to listen in, decode, and prevent the start or to redirect whilst in flight. Any vehicle or spacecraft now in use by the Allies. B. The destructive power of atomic weapons is therefore much more of a threat to the powers who possess them and have them stored in silos, in subs, in planes, or on their own soil than to those countries who do not have these weapons at all, since they could quite easily be set off by remote control from the UFOs before they were even launched. The Breakaway Group was originally 25,000 people, a relatively small army possessing high technology, most likely a small army with high technology. They need genetic material. In abductions, people were told they need it to replenish the DNA of their race. They have mind control tech and can plant false memories. Whitley Strieber, an American author known for his works on alien abductions and paranormal experiences, has discussed the concept of screen memories in his book Communion. He describes how memories of owls can serve as cover memories for encounters with aliens, specifically the iconic greys with large, unblinking eyes. These screen memories are thought to be psychically implanted visions where owls are merely disguised stand-ins for the actual alien encounters. Strieber's experiences and theories have sparked discussions and debates within the UFO and paranormal communities. Some believe that these owl sightings are linked to alien abductions and other unexplained phenomena. Strieber's work has also been associated with the concept of false memories, where individuals recall events that did not actually occur, often influenced by external factors such as hypnosis or suggestion. Most definitely, they have anti-gravity tech. Levitation is naturally occurring in nature. If you want to know more about levitation of the bumblebee and Grebennikov, check the video about Grebennikov in my channel. There is an interesting aside to this UFO Antarctic business and spaceflight. Perhaps a few of our readers know that in the region of the South Pole, Antarctica, and to a lesser extent the North Pole, it is possible to escape from the Earth's magnetic pull and death through radiation because the Van Allen belts open up, funnel-like, at both of these extremities. It is possible to launch a spacecraft with very little radiation protection from this area, avoiding enormous weight. A crew needs no radiation protection gear. They were flying in space before everyone else. Proof of genetic experiments in South America. The city Cândido Godoy in Brazil. This small town, located in the state of Rio Grande do Sul near the Argentine border, is famous for its unusually high number of twin births. The rate of twin births in Candido Godoy is nearly 10 times higher than the national average. Researchers have been studying this phenomenon for years, but the exact cause remains a mystery. The Carney incident, Reinhold Schmidt, a grain buyer from California, on October 25, 1957, was taken on a spaceship. They all spoke to me in the English language with what seemed to me to be a German accent. Among themselves, they spoke High German, which I could understand as I graduated from a school where they spoke and taught German as well as English, and I was able to speak, read, and write German at that time. There are a total of 9 sunken nuclear submarines. Think about it. They cost billions of dollars to make and take the best engineers in the world and the latest technologies, including stealth and multiple defense measures. How can all of them sunk by accident? Not hit by an enemy, but by accident. Something is definitely happening under the oceans. Why do you think Hitler believed he could take on the Allies and win? History says it was because he was a psychotic villain. But really, he had the tech.